privileged to be able to share what I've learned from my teachers with all of you. And so I'll be leading a short segment on mindful movement. Just to be conservative, I'm going to assume that the majority of you who are listening in will be new to this or not very familiar with this. And so I'll just take a couple of minutes to explain what you're in for. And so mindful movement is really a designation that refers to a class of disciplines that involve integrating the attitude of mindfulness with physical movements, okay, the movements of the body. And again, just to be Dr. Ginto already referred to it earlier, but if you're not quite sure what it is, I'll just explain using the definition that was provided by Jon Kabat-Zinn, who's the founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction. Attention. Way. It's just that mindfulness is a way of paying attention that is marked by 3 characteristics. Okay, so the first thing is when we're mindful, we're paying attention on purpose. There's an intentionality to it. There is a deliberateness to it. We're not just letting our attention get hijacked by any distraction in the environment. The second feature of mindfulness is that it involves paying attention to what's unfolding in the present moment. So rather than getting lost in thoughts of the past or thoughts of the future, we're focusing our awareness on what's happening right now. Okay? What's happening right now, and right now, and right now, moment to moment to moment. And then the third and final characteristic of mindfulness is that the quality of the attention is non-judgmental, or to say it in more positive terms, it's warm, it's receptive, it's accepting, it's kind, and it's curious. And so that's it. So when we're being mindful, we're just paying attention on purpose to something that's happening right now, and in a way that's receptive and accepting, and in a manner that just is welcoming the present experience. So whatever it is that's showing up in our experience, we let it be as it is. And so when we're doing mindful movements, we're marrying that kind of attention to the physical movements of the body. Now, many of you will be familiar with some of the most popular mindful movement practices that are done in the world today. The most popular of which would be yoga. Okay. The other really popular mindfulness-based discipline would be Tai Chi. So this is something that is not as strange to us as we may believe. Okay. Now, having said that, I'd like to manage your expectations because this is a dedicated mindful movement exercise. And so even if yoga and Tai Chi fall under the same umbrella, there's still a difference in terms of what's emphasized in these techniques. And so in a formal mindful movement practice, which is what we're going to be exploring, the overwhelming highlight will be the mindfulness piece. Okay, so not so much the movement piece. And so if you're looking for something that's going to make you break out into a sweat and tone your biceps or stretch your hamstrings, that's not quite what we're getting into. And so we're going to be foregrounding the mindfulness component. The movement is just a means to an end. So when we do a formal mindful movement practice, it is much closer in feel, in tonality, in objective to a formal meditation practice. So the movement is subordinate to that objective. So when we're going to do the movements shortly, the movements are in service to, number one, learning how to focus and to concentrate the mind. Okay? So the slow motion movements, we're not doing the movements for the sake of getting fit. We're doing it to learn how to focus and concentrate the mind. Second, we're using the slow motion movements to generate a sense of calm and serenity, which I think we could all use. And then the third and final objective is that we're using our focus on the bodily movements to start generating a felt sense of the body, hypersensitivity to what's going on here. Because most of us, as we've dealt with COVID, we've kind of lived in our heads. So we're in our heads most of the time. And so when we practice mindful movements, we slowly return to the physical body. Okay? So I just want to say that up front so that those of you who are looking for like a 10-minute HIIT segment, that's not what we're getting into. Okay? So after we do the exercise, I'm going to spend some time explaining why this is helpful, not just if you want a soft introduction to formal meditation, but why it's also useful if you're looking at starting or restarting a fitness regimen. Okay, so it can be used to that effect as well. So, all right. So let's start first by just sitting in a way that allows us to embody the qualities of dignity and ease. So you can be sitting on a chair, you can be sitting on the floor, it doesn't really matter, but just feel the connection between your sitting bones and the surface that's supporting you. And just allow yourselves to grow tall. And just noticing how the collarbones widen, there's a faint tightening between the shoulder blades, and how it's just easier to breathe when we sit in this manner. If there's any pinching sensation in your lower back, you can round the lower back ever so slightly. And so we're finding a middle ground between that sense of uprightness and alertness, and also relaxation and space. And then just allow your chin to be parallel to the floor. You can soften your gaze as if you're just letting the light enter your eyes, or you can close your eyes altogether. Now, just bring your hands up like this, and just feel what's going on in your hands. And this is where closing your eyes might be helpful, because the visual faculty tends to be extraordinarily distracting. And if you pay attention, you'll start noticing that your hands always have sensation. For me right now, there's a faint tingling, buzzy sensation, feelings of heat in the palms and in the fingertips. Now, if you're not feeling it, it's okay. If you're new to this, it might take a while to develop that sensitivity. So you're not flunking anything if you can't feel it right away. But if you can feel it, this is what I'd like you to focus on for the rest of our exercise. Focus on the sensations in the hands, along the arms. And this is what we're going to be tracking. And just bring your arms out to the sides. And then we're going to slowly move our arms up over our heads. And I want you to do it slowly. How slowly? Well, pretend someone's watching you. And it's like they can't notice you moving. That's how slow it is. Okay? And so let's start. Paying most of your attention to the sensations in your hands. Just begin to slowly lift your arms up over your heads. And remember, it's not about the movement per se. Yes, you're moving your arms, but don't worry about whether you're doing it right, if you're looking graceful. Focus on how it feels. Notice the micro sensations as your arms gently float up through the air. And you'll notice that the quality of the sensations change. There might be a bit of pulsing. There might be a bit of vibration. The sense of heat might increase. If you're going a little faster than me, it's not a problem. If you're going a little slower than me, it's not a problem either. And you can even pay attention to what's going on in the rest of your body. Some of you might have started noticing already, this is much harder than it looks. There might be a sensation of discomfort already in your upper arms or in the tops of your shoulders. Now, if there's intense discomfort or pain, then by all means, bring your arms down. So our objective here is to alleviate your suffering, not to intensify it. Okay. So don't worry if you need to rest. Rest whenever you need to. keep tracking sensations. And if you'd like, you can even notice what thoughts you have when discomfort arises. Because that's the other thing we notice in mindfulness. We begin to notice our thoughts in relationship to reality. And if your hands are finally over your shoulders, just pause there for a moment. And what changes in your experience when you stop? Okay. And then let's just slowly turn the palms out. And then slowly, slowly begin to float the hands down. How does it feel different compared to bringing it up? What changes? And again, if you're starting to feel some strain, just bring your hands down. I don't know if they told you this is not an Olympic event. So we're not going to be giving prizes for whoever moves the slowest. Okay? So as Dr. Ginta said, self-care. If what's wise is to rest your arms, go ahead and do that. It's not a problem. But if you're still moving your arms, focus on the sensations, focus on how it feels. And if you've already brought your hands down, you can slightly rest them on your lap. And just notice, keep noticing. Noticing if there's more heat in the body. Notice what happens to the pulsing and tingling sensations. Okay. And so let's do that maybe 2 to 3 times. Move at your own pace and feel free to close your eyes. Closing the eyes makes it so much easier to pay attention. So again, remember, we're not doing this so that we can tone our musculature. We're not doing this so that we can improve our flexibility. We're doing this as a method of slowly learning what it means to be mindful. So we're just paying attention on purpose to our slow motion movements. And we're paying attention to our movements now because we're moving now. So we're not remembering how we moved a minute ago. We're not anticipating how we're going to move later. We're focusing on what's happening now. And we're doing it with a warm, open-hearted, open-minded receptivity. So letting go of the judgments, letting go of judging how you're doing, letting go of your judgment of the exercise. Okay, just let go. Just enjoy the sense of moving for the sake of moving. No other agenda. And then if your arms are already up, turn the palms out. And just slowly float the hands down. Those of you who do Tai Chi, this will be familiar. Okay. And for those of you who do Tai Chi, that pulsing, tingling sensation, you know what it is. It's the flow of the Qi. The flow of the Qi through your meridians. And moving, moving. And then let's just do that one final time. Okay. And so, if you're just kind of reflecting on what we're doing, it's not the most glamorous thing in the world. Okay? It's not going to get us any gold medals. But there's such a gift in just being able to do something so simply and to savor it. Not trying to get somewhere, not trying to rush somewhere. But really it's an invitation to cultivate, to reawaken that sense of joy and freshness and wonder that we had as children, when we could just do things for their own sake. Okay? And So just enjoying the miracle of having a body. Okay? Just enjoying the miracle of having limbs that can move in space. And just being grateful that even in this very trying circumstances, we still have the resources to explore these strategies, these approaches, these techniques that allow us to take better care of ourselves and to take better care of others. And slowly, only if you'd like, you can put your hands together. And then you can just rest them on your belly, symbolically returning the energy. Something I learned from a Tai Chi teacher. And that's the end of the exercise. And so, if you were doing this with my teachers, you would be doing this for the next 45 minutes. Just bringing your arms up and down for 45 to 60 minutes, right? And that's really because, as I was saying, this is a soft introduction that's often used to explore formal meditation. For many people, formal meditation is intimidating. From zero, you suddenly start sitting still for 15, 20, 30 minutes. And for a lot of people, that just doesn't work. It turns them off. And so mindful movement can be a beautiful and accessible way of kickstarting a contemplative practice, because there's still something tangible that you're focusing on compared to something more subtle like the breath or sounds. Okay. Now, I did promise to explain why this is also helpful if your explicit interest is not meditation, but fitness. And it's useful in two ways. Okay. First of all, cultivating this felt sense of the body, this hyper awareness of what's going on, is really massively helpful in injury prevention, especially during this time when we don't really have the benefit of supervision from fitness trainers. Okay, so we're doing things on our own, we're looking things up on YouTube, and we're doing whatever. And so in those circumstances, it's really easy to hurt ourselves, to pull a muscle, to throw our backs. And so when we have this hypersensitivity to what's going on in our body, we know when to stop. We know when we're just about to go past our edge. We know when it's going to be a bad idea. Okay, so it's useful to have this as an adjunctive practice for injury prevention. The other benefit of it is, if you're already an athlete, injury prevention is easy for you. You can look at it from the standpoint of optimum performance, because when you have, again, that hypersensitivity, you know how much further you can push the envelope. Okay. And there's also the mental component, that heightened focus, that heightened concentration is eminently useful in sports or in any kind of weight training, or if you have any kind of fitness goals, so to speak. So whether you're doing this to jumpstart a meditation practice, or whether you're doing it to jumpstart or enhance a fitness regimen, it certainly has a valuable contribution to make in both those domains. And so I'm going to pause here right now because I believe that there are questions from those of you who are watching.
Thank you, Ms. Tupaz, for sharing that practice with us. We do have a time for some questions from our audience, so I'd like to invite back Commissioner Kiram for this question and answer.
Hi, Eileen. Thank you for sharing those practices. I was able to do it, right? I have actually a personal question. While doing the mindful movement practice, I'm getting distracted. What can I do to focus more on this?
That's a beautiful question. And it's something that also comes up a lot when people explore meditation, which is the mind keeps wandering. And so what I'd like to say to that, and Dr. Ginto also did this earlier, is to normalize that experience. Because people who are new to these practices tend to think that they're failing, or they're not doing it right, or they're just not meant to do these things because they keep getting distracted. And so my first answer is, and this comes from neuroscience, The mind is literally designed to wander. So within 8 to 10 seconds of not devoting your mind to something, it will slip into what's known as the default mode, which is what scientists refer to as mind wandering and time traveling. So really just recognizing that this is part of the hardware. We're not flunking, we're not doing it wrong if we get distracted and if we have difficulties focusing. So in terms of contemplative practice, in terms of mindfulness practice, when we get distracted, the instruction is to simply don't stress, it's okay, and just return your attention to whatever it is that you're focusing on. So if you're doing a mindful movement practice and you got distracted, you started thinking about lunch, you started thinking about dinner, you started thinking about a PowerPoint, the moment you notice that your mind has wandered, just very gently set it aside and return your attention to the movement. And just be prepared to do this every 8 to 10 seconds. Okay? So I hope that answered your question, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. Another one is from our viewer. Gaano katagal dapat ang mindful exercise sa isang tao na busy katulad ko?
It really depends on what your intention is. There are no hard and fast rules. So if you'd like to cultivate a bit more equanimity, a bit more peace of mind, and you're dealing with a lot, sometimes you might need to practice for a little longer to start getting that sense of calm. But if you're really hard pressed, then just do it when there's an emergency. So for instance, when you're experiencing an anxiety attack or you've really hit the end of your rope, you're about to scream your head off, you can literally just pause in that moment and then maybe bring your arms up really slowly and then slowly bring your arms down. Of course, I wouldn't suggest doing that in public. But practice, and you need to. So when you find that your back is against the wall, your blood pressure is rising, your blood is boiling, take a few moments, focus on the breath. And then if you really have a little bit of time, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, do the practice, set aside some dedicated time frame. Now, how long? Science says 12 minutes minimum, 8 weeks, you'll start changing your brain. But for me, I'm a lot more flexible than that. I tell people, look, start with 1 minute a day until that gets easy, and then expand it to 2 minutes. You can slowly build your way up to 12 minutes or 15 minutes. Okay? Pick whatever is workable given the demands of your life. Don't be too ambitious. So if you're looking at starting a 20-minute practice tomorrow and you've never done it, that's setting yourself up for a failure. So aim for 1 minute, okay, and then just slowly build from there.